Hey, Stevie Taylor here. Welcome to the Gig Life Podcast. As I've always said, the Gig Life Podcast is free to you. It always has been, and it always will be free for you to access the interviews and the related content at any time. But like anything else these days, the Gig Life Podcast costs money to produce. Websites, podcast hosting subscriptions, travel costs to visit the guests for interviews, Wi-Fi and data costs, production equipment upgrades, as well as the time, of course. Now, if you see the value in the Gig Life Podcast, if you would like to help, and of course, if you're able to, you can now donate. I have set up a secure link where you can donate to the Gig Life Podcast. You can give as little or as much as you like. It's not a recurring payment thing. It's not a Patreon type setup where you pay to continue to receive the content. It's completely voluntary. If you choose to give nothing, that's perfectly fine. You will still be able to listen to the podcast as you have to this point, and you will continue to receive the new episodes as they become available, just like everybody else. Nothing will change. But whatever you do give will be very much appreciated, and also know that you'll be helping me to bring you and everybody else all these great interviews. The secure donate link is in the show notes of this episode or on the website, thegiglifepodcast.com. As always, you can contact me anytime via the website. There's a contact section on the website there, or you can hit me up on Facebook or Instagram, and the handle there is @thegiglifepodcast, or you can hit me up on Twitter @thegiglifepod, or you can email me thegiglifepodcast@gmail.com. Anyway, hope you enjoy this episode number 62 with Mr. Andy Caryofyllis.
Sing nice and loud, okay? I got a feeling that tonight's gonna be a good night.
My guest today is founder, singer, manager of Jellybean Jam and diehard Sydney Roosters supporter, Andy Caryofyllis. Jellybean Jam have been part of the Sydney cover band scene since 1993. And that's 26 years, specialising in corporate functions, charity balls, conferences, Christmas parties and weddings, and they've performed over 3,500 shows, and they're still going strong. I've known of Andy since the mid to late 90s, when we used to go out and see Jellybean Jam play at the Castle Hill Tavern, amongst other places. They were part of an extremely exciting time in Sydney throughout the 90s and into the early 2000s. Those of you who were around that time will know exactly what I'm talking about. It was great to sit down and hang and talk with Andy about those days, the 90s through to 2000s, when the Sydney Olympics came to town, which started the Jellies on their corporate gig journey. I think 26 years in any job is something to be celebrated, especially so if it's a band. So sit back and hear about how it all started for Jellybean Jam and how it's still kicking today. So, ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Mr. Andy Caryofyllis. Cheers. All right, I think we're rolling.
Cool.
Andy Caryofyllis.
Stevie.
Welcome to the Gig Life Podcast.
Mate, I'm loving it. Thank you so much for having me, mate. I'm a little bit embarrassed that you asked me to be on, but in a good way. Oh, no, just like I had to listen to some of the other podcasts, and I'm going, cool, there's some pretty cool dudes on there, and there's a fat little Greek hairy bloke that sings for Jellybean Jam, and you can ask me some questions.
Well, you know what? If you'd made time for me a year ago,
I wouldn't have been so fat. No.
Right? No, because then you would have set the benchmark. See?
Really? Okay, yeah. Oh, that's a good call. But we tried to do this 12 months ago.
Yeah, but you're moving house.
Moving house,
and the reason I wanted to do it last year was because it was the 25th anniversary of Jellybean Jam. Yeah. For people who don't know who Jellybean Jam is, you'll end up knowing a fair bit about them after this.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Cool, man. Now, we're in a bit of a Sydney Roosters shrine here.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. The other love of my life is the back-to-back premiership winning Sydney Roosters. Who
Right.
I spent a lot of time supporting in my life, and thankfully have instilled that maniac kind of quality into my kids that they love it as well.
That's awesome.
It's been great. So it's my big release from doing 25 years of Jellybean Jam and some other bands before that, and it's a good opportunity to go away and just focus on something else. And to be honest, for me, sport is entertainment, and I've always seen it as entertainment. So like players, when they're not on the grog and carrying on like idiots, but it's just like going to a pub. But these guys, I pay to go and watch a footy game, just like someone would want to come and watch us perform. I go and watch them perform, and I just get the buzz, and I'm in awe of, especially the last 2 years. It's been pretty good, but we won't go. Can I
six again?
I
wanted to try and get a reaction.
And it's pretty. We've had this conversation the last week.
All right, can I get your take on that?
Okay, so my take on that is, I totally understand where Canberra would be upset about it, and because if it happened to our team as well, I'd be pretty ropeable. But inevitably, they got the call right.
Yeah.
And had it gone past the six again, and they scored on the second or third play after that.
Yep.
To be honest, as a Rooster supporter, I've copped it all my life.
Yep.
And there's a lot of neutrals out there, and I'm sure that that would love to see us not go back to back, let alone finish in the top 8, finish last.
Right.
So I'm sure that if it went further and they scored on the third play or something, they would have gone back and had a look and said, actually James Tedesco, I don't think he touched the ball, so it wouldn't have been a 6-again call. But every other neutral, and I say that nicely because I've got some good mates that go for Souths and whatever, they'd be going, mate, just get over it.
Yeah.
Just get over it. But I think the fact that it was Canberra and it was and the underdog, and I would definitely have been cheering for Canberra had it been any other team. I think that sort of maybe just taints the vision a little bit, and that's and I think it was just an unfortunate call as a 6 again, but I think the Roosters had to then go 85 metres on the next.
Oh yeah,
to score a brilliant try. So
you're right there. It was
brilliant. And there was, and through that whole game, there was definitely like the Cooper Cronk, Simbin. There's stuff that didn't go.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
And I think the Roosters just went, you know what, move on. Let's just go with it, and that's what they've done. So that's my take on the 6 again.
Awesome.
But I do, I felt sorry for Canberra at the time.
Yeah. Not now. No, I wouldn't.
Nah, not now. No. Actually, I lie. When we were there watching it, we had no idea what was going on because I was at the game with my family, and we were on the other end, and so we just saw all of a sudden we're going 80 metres and score a try, so we're pumped up, and you've got a screen, you've got euphoria at the ground. So it wasn't until after the game I'm receiving all these nasty text messages.
Oh, really?
Oh, not nasty, but that shouldn't have been or whatever. And I go, what are you talking about? Tedesco scored, and I'm going, you're talking about the Cooper Cronk Simbin? They're going, no, are you at the game? I'm at the game, but I didn't hear any. Oh, okay. And then it felt a little bit hollow till I went home and watched it again, and then I made up my own mind and went, hollow for about an hour. Back to back.
Back to back.
3-peat. Let's do 3-peat. Come on.
Nice one.
Yeah.
Cool, man. All right. Well, let's roll back to early days. Yeah. Now, you're born in Seven Hills.
Yeah, Seven Hills Hospital.
Yep. Greek mother and father?
Yeah, so mum and dad. So I've got Greek heritage. Mum and dad were actually born in Alexandria in Egypt. So before the sort of Second World War, there was a big migration over from all of Europe, and they ended up in Alexandria. And they didn't know they sort of knew each other, met each other once or twice back then, but it was sort of like a fleeting little look. Mum was kind of hot for some other bloke. My dad was, I think, on his way to getting engaged to someone else. But yeah, a lot of Greeks went over there, and then literally at some stage the Prime Minister or whatever it is of Egypt just kind of went, people with money, like, you got to get out of here, you got to give all your money away, just get out, you got to leave your belongings. So they just made the 40-day boat trip over from individually different times. Dad came over to get was engaged to someone in Melbourne. Basically turned up to Melbourne and went to the engagement party, and at the end of the engagement party they said, thanks very much, close the door, see you later, we're keeping all the gifts. So he was sort of walking around Melbourne going, wow, what happens now? And then my mum was living up in Sydney and knew his sister quite well. So he made the trek up to Sydney, and then 3 or 4 months later they started sort of hanging out together. And I think, they were watching the pajama game one day, and the 6 of them were all sort of sitting next to each other in George Street, and he leans over to my mum and he says, oh, do you want to go and watch a movie? And she goes, oh, yeah, sure, whatever. Whoever else wants to come along. She goes, no, just you and me. Yeah. And then, and not long after that, maybe 6 months after that, engaged, married, and, so... Awesome. Yeah, there you go.
Just going back to when they were in Egypt and whoever said, okay, we're going to take your money. Can you explain that? Why was
I don't know. To be honest, I don't know enough about it. That's what I kind of have been told. But I think it was just. It might have been a bit of a. I won't quote history because I'm not really good at that.
Yeah,
but for the story that I've been told, that they just literally got told, you got to get out of here. You got to, and they were, I suppose, living over there. They kind of had a little bit of money because they'd worked hard. And it's they were coming over from Greece, like their parents from Greece and stuff like that. They would have had a little bit of coin to play with. Right. Got over there, and I think it was just this big change, and it was just like, if you're not an Egyptian, even though you're born there, if you're not with Egyptian heritage, you've got to get out of here. Or so much get out of here, like, give us so much money and stay, or go.
Oh, right.
And they went, and everyone went, what, at that time, geez, Australia sounds pretty good. And headed down to Australia. Yeah.
You got any brothers or sisters?
Got an older brother and an older sister.
Okay. Yeah. Music in the family?
Nah.
Not at all?
Not at all. Not at all. So my brother can probably sing. I mean, funny story there too, that I'm the biological one and my brother and sister were both adopted.
Okay. Many
years ago. So, and we kind of didn't know about that till about sort of 30s after my dad passed away in 86, so I was in my final year at school in year 12, and then and he got unwell. He had lung cancer and passed away. So it was a big sort of eye-opener at the age of 17, sort of, really opened your eyes up to the world. And I was the youngest of the family, and it was, I think, always mum's and dad's wishes not for us to know that my brother George and my sister Christine were adopted. And I think we didn't know anyway. We just thought we were one happy family. That was my older brother. And it was funny because people would say, they look at photos and go, man, you look nothing like your brother and your sister. And I go, oh, thank God for that,
Would have been even funnier if they said, oh, your brother and your sister look like your mum and dad, but you don't.
Yeah. And so you go on and think, oh, that's pretty it's pretty funny because you used to laugh and go, yeah, I know. And they used to say it a lot. And then, and then all of a sudden something kind of happened and we found out. It was a real shock to the family. But it didn't ever change what we thought about mum and dad. We just went, mum and dad they didn't tell us because they didn't want them to know that they were unloved. You know what I mean? They just want, and back then too, being Greeks, you wouldn't really... If you were going to adopt someone, you wouldn't adopt... Like Greeks would be easily grabbed... Because there wouldn't be a lot of kids being Greek being up for adoption. So they would go straight to Greek parents. Great Greek parents. So it was quite quick. So once they put the forms in, it didn't take them long to get my brother. A couple of years later, I get my sister. And then all of a sudden...
Oh, okay. So your brother and sister aren't biological either?
No.
Okay, good.
No, yeah. So, and then and then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, I'm pregnant. So I'm kind of like the miracle child.
Yeah, right.
The brat. But so it was a bit of a story back then, and then when it came out, it was a real shock to everyone. But like I said, it was never anything that we went, oh, our parents, bad parents. It was like, wow. And it was, I've said this before and I'm not making it up now, but I used to say, geez, if I could never have kids, this was before I found out, I'd adopt. So when it all happened, I was like, wow, and it just made me realise what people that adopt kids do, and especially with kids that probably find out later on and start to resent their parents because they didn't know and they weren't told. Like I hold them in very high esteem. Yeah.
That's cool. What was your schooling like? Oh, sorry, what school did you go to?
So I went to Blacktown Boys High.
Yep.
Yeah, good school. I mean, Blacktown doesn't get the best raps these days, and probably for a long time. And it's a shame because when we went to school, there were a lot of talented kids that came through that school that have not so much talented, but like kids that have kicked goals, like big goals around, and whether it be sports or music. My business partner Rob, we went to school together. I met him at school.
Oh, right, okay.
He came over from Hungary, and he couldn't really speak a word of English when he got to sort of school. And about 2 years later, Rob is the most Australian wog you've ever met.
Yeah, man.
Can I say wog? I can say wog, yeah. So, yeah.
Wog can say wog.
Wog can say wog, yeah, exactly. So he's the most Australian wog. Like, by the time he was here for 2 years, he was, mate, g'day, mate, the whole thing. It was just an Aussie. Yeah, and he can talk more than talk.
Yeah.
So when so we met at school, and then there was, it was, we never, growing up in Blacktown, never really, not saying that Blacktown is been tarnished a bit, but I grew up a Westie and I loved it. Like, I grew up in Layla Park, so I went to, Blacktown boy. So I was vice captain of the school, that last year was a tough year. Like I said before, my dad got sick in year 11 and then passed away in April in year 12. So I think at that time I just kind of went, I kind of could have just left and gone a little bit crazy. But we had such a good year 12, and I think, I don't know whether I'm probably one of the first people at school that may have lost a parent, because it just really, that year felt like we all just became really, really close, and everyone was looking out for everyone. And my best mate, a guy called Nick Mammoth, was just my rock, and he was still my best mate now, like another Greek guy. He ended up being school captain, and I was vice captain, but he was a big dude. He was like, even at the age of, year 12, I don't know, 14, 15, 16, I don't know. He was like, the big dude, like muscly, not muscly, but just and I was this little wimpy looking dude. But I saw like the little dog and the big dog and the little dog barking around him. But yeah, we got on like the best mates and have always been. But I think, so with the two Greeks were running the school. So it was great. It was great. It was definitely a good, like I said, it was a good school. It cops a bit of a bad name now, but back then, so some great musos have come from that school. I mean, from the girls' school next door, a form below us, Tony Collette, so we were, haven't seen her in years, but we were in productions together and stuff like that. So I did a lot of musicals at school. Yeah. I did, would sort of always kind of get one of the lead, like I did more, I didn't play as much back then because I played keyboards, but I'm a bit of I'm not the best keyboard player, but I sort of learned just from ear, and we had, a band after school where we had two synthesizer players because we were into studio work going Duran, and I had the guitar and all that kind of stuff going on. But at school I would do productions and musicals, and my main passion was always, I wanted to be an actor. That's what I really wanted to be, more so than a muso. I wasn't really ever going, I want to be playing in a band. So
was there somebody that inspired that in you?
I don't know. Like I always loved comedic actors, like like the Robin Williams and all that kind of stuff, and guys like that. Plus, I like my De Niro's and stuff like that. But I think, I don't know. Back then, I kind of fell into it. I suppose I was always a bit of a cheeky one at school. So at school, I'd always be the one that would cop 12 detentions in a row, but it wouldn't be because I would get them because I was a bad kid. It'd be like, Caryofyllis, keep going, you get another one. Oh, come on, miss, you can't. Another one. Oh, miss, you're slack. Another one. Yeah. So I think one week I ended up I had 12 detentions from my English teacher, and it was every lunchtime, and I'd stand outside the English staff room.
So you were that lippy kid that...
Yeah.
I just couldn't let it go.
Yeah. And I'd stand outside the staff room and I'd sort of go, do you guys need anything in there? No, Caryofyllis, keep it quiet, please. And are you sure? No, that's it. After about the fourth day, they went, look, okay, just go. Just no more detention, just go. Like, I think they just had enough. But it was never, I think I was a good student. I was a fun student. I think that whole acting and music side of it were really like, they kind of like that, you could be a bit cheeky and get away with it. Yeah. And so I kind of did that. And that kind of... Yeah. So it's for school. So that was, I think that, especially that last year, with what had happened, I really just started to focus on playing a little bit more. Right. We had a school band called called Montreux.
Awesome.
Montreux Jazz Festival. We weren't jazz players, but back then we were doing our, the like Ice House, and we were doing Duran Duran, Sid Owego, all that kind of stuff. Nick Kershaw, the stuff that Nick Kershaw was my idol. Like growing up, like he was like the dude, Nick Kershaw. I loved the keyboard side of it, and I loved the way he wrote, and he was the guy, So had the same kind of. Well, I had the mullet, but the curly mullet at the back, because I got the curly hair.
Yeah.
And I think just started to then go, let's play a bit more, and music ended up becoming a bit of a release for us, and we put the band together, and we would do the school disco, and we'd have those gigs where we'd have a microphone taped up with gaff and no foldback, and and the mic stand would be taped up. We had 2 mic stands, and we'd share. It was kind of like Beatles in the 60s,
Right.
But
you're rock stars.
Yeah. And it was cool. So everyone kind of dug the fact you're in the band, and you do that, and sort of. And then literally that band sort of changed its name, I think. I'm trying to remember. But it became, then when we finished school in 86, we had some of the guys from school that we played together, and we decided to put a band together called White Lies. And again, same sort of repertoire and stuff like that. And we went and did an Ozbike. There was the Ozbike magazine. I think it's still around, but they had an Ozbike Promotions, so they looked after bands. And we went to a competition at the old Vauxhall Inn, which is called something else now, but it's on a Monday night, and we went through the 3rd heat, and we won the band competition, and Mal Eastick was the judge.
Oh, right.
And to be honest, I think they kind of looked at us, because we attracted such a good young crowd of friends, we packed the place out on a Monday night, it would be sacrilege if they didn't give us the award. So, and there would have probably been better bands, but we were sweating up. We had the tubular, keyboard stands. I had a D50 and a DX7 and all that kind of stuff, and I came out with a guitar, and we were living the dream, And so we won this kind of contract to be on Ozbike's books, and we did every gig on the South Coast, all the way down to Eden every weekend. Every weekend we drive 2 hours, we come back, we drive 3 hours. Back then, you didn't have enough money for petrol, we almost got... I remember coming back and doing a gig with the drummer Joe Rami, great drummer Joe, and he's coming up, and we were sort of in that, between sort of not in the Helensburgh, or even between Helensburgh and coming back up to Sutherland, and we had the little green station, the Gemini station wagon, and it was on empty. And we're going, we're going to do it. But we just... Back then, man, it's so different, because you were playing music, and not that I don't love it now, but it was all that on a whim, oh my God, we're in a band, we're cool, we've got our girlfriends with us, we just camp by the beach if we're tired, and it just was, it was fun. It was a learning experience, Yeah.
Mm. When did Jellybean Jam
start?
Start.
Why
did it start?
Yeah, well, I mean, we did that for White Lies for a couple of years. I left. I kind of semi-retired. I don't want to do this anymore. No, and I started working at just a sort of backyard recording studio in in Greystanes for a while. And I just really wanted to be. And then by that time, the acting bug had kind of gone. I wanted to be a recording engineer, and I wanted to work at a studio and produce. As 18-year-old, so I started doing that for a little while, and then got bored with that again, and the guys were saying, come on, let's put a band together. So we put a band together in 1991 with Rob and then some other friends, and I just auditioned a few people. That was called Love in the Jungle. Right, so
cool name.
Yeah, I got the it's under there. It's Time You Had Some Love in the Jungle. Right? And they go, what is that, Love in the Jungle? I mean, what's in the name anyway? Love in the Jungle. So we went, okay. And we started playing we played for about maybe just under 2 years. And we had the concept back then, we were wearing the coloured suits. And that was because we copied a band called Colour Me Bad. They had the coloured suits. And they were, oh, cool, we're going to do that. So I was playing keys at the time, girl up front, 5-piece band. A lot of the stuff was sequenced, and I'd play along and fill out the tracks, but there was a lot of live stuff. And we'd play the Orient Hotel every Saturday night at the Rocks, when it was a really good gig, when it was like open air and people would stand at the top. There was like a coliseum. You'd watch from the 3rd level down, the 2nd level down, the place would be packed. So we were doing 11 o'clock till 2 o'clock in the morning. I was then driving home to Blacktown at, getting home by 5:30, whatever, because you'd have a drink afterwards. And they had no freeways back then. It was just Victoria Road, an hour and 20 minutes to get home.
Yeah.
And then we did that for a while, and then you started to meet other guys from other bands. They'd come and watch you because we were lucky to score that residency. Then we were doing a heap of gigs. We did end up doing a lot of gigs, but we were going out for mega cheap back then too because you just wanted to play, you know. You make enough for petrol, really, back in... That was like 91. And then there were some other bands around. There was Baby Loves a Cha-Cha. There was a band called Kiss Me Pink, which was like an offshoot of Baby Loves a Cha-Cha. And... the drummer Mark and the guitarist Andy and I think it might have been one of the singers, we sort of started chatting one day, and I think we just had a bit of a thing where we thought we want to play together, you know. And so we decided to pull Love in the Jungle. That finished, and then the concept came up for, well, why don't we do this thing called Jellybean Jam? And at that point, to be honest, and I'll say this nicely, but I've never been a great singer, okay? I get away with it. I'm a good front man. I have a lot of fun, but I've never ever been able. And you know, I get in trouble from friends, and my wife says, "You do really well." I go, "Yeah, I know, but I'm probably better now than I was 25 years ago." But back then, I went, if I auditioned for a band I'd never get in as a singer, how about I put a band together where I'm the singer and I never have to audition? And 26 years later, I'm still the singer in the band, and I'd always have.
Oh, you go all right, man.
Oh, thanks. We'd always have for me, it's knowing your limitations.
Yeah,
and,
okay.
And if you know your limitations, and you know, I'm never going to be the voice that I'd love to be, but I know that I have fun when I'm on stage, and that I know how to. I think I can work a crowd pretty well. But then I go, that doesn't suit my voice as much as I really want to sing that song. It's a bit high. Well, it won't sound too bad if a girl sings it, so we can still do the song. And I don't want to take it down, you know, 2 tones, and it starts to sound pretty ordinary. So. So basically, we then put this band together, and we kind of we had a gig, and we wanted to play at the Woolloomooloo Bay Hotel because that was the gig. Sunday nights at the Woolloomooloo Bay was just crazy. 6 till 9. One Hit Wonders were playing. The Club Nerd were playing. It was, I just want to play at this room, you know. And back then we had no aspirations of being in a band for more than a couple of years and having fun. Not 26 years later, and we're there and we're going, okay. So we've invited the licensee, John Franks, wonderful man, right, from the Woolloomooloo. And somehow he said, okay, I'm going to come down and watch you guys at the Orient Hotel, all right? You better be good. We're starting at 10, it's 11 o'clock, it was a late night, and come down and watch it. All right, sweet. So I could see him out the front there, and we're there, and I was just like, my heart's pounding, you know, we're doing this gig. You know, just about to start, we go 10 minutes into a medley, there's a fire. Electrical fire in the building. Evacuate. He leaves. I'm going, no, we're packing all our gear up, getting out of there. And I'm going, there's our chance.
Missed opportunity.
He liked us enough for 10 minutes that he went, I'll give you a gig. Gave us a gig on a Friday night. Came down, saw the whole band, liked it. And then literally, that was about... So we started Jellies in 93. And it was... by the end of 93... He gave us a couple more dates. Then come 94, and for the next 7 years, he then would just go, he'd ring us up and go, okay, what months of Sundays do you want? Like, you know, do you want to do 3 months of Sundays? So that would be like 12 gigs or 13 gigs, then whatever month it was, or 4 months. And then between us, the Club Nerd and One Hit Wonders, we just did the run of Sundays. So all of a sudden, you're playing in front of 300-400 people packed in this room, and your craft just, you know, your ability to work a crowd just goes bang. You know, you go, I mean, I've got these people there watching me. I'm pulling stupid faces like I do, and I'm singing away and I'm carrying on. And Sunday nights were great because even if you had a crap night where you were singing really bad, you just go, la, 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 you guys sing it, and they'd sing the whole night. And you'd pull a couple of stupid faces and look at the girls, and we just cut our teeth on gigs like that. And then the Sunday nights in Sydney just got better and better. Like you had the Clovelly Hotel, the Beach Palace, the Birkenhead Tavern, the Drummoyne Rowers, and it was like in the 90s everyone wanted to go out on a Sunday. They go out Friday and Saturday night, you go out and you go, man, I'm having a great night. It's a little bit of pressure because, you know, on a Saturday night you might think, you know, you're a single man, I hope I get like whatever happens, you know. Come Sunday, you go, man, my weekend was crap. I just didn't get where I wanted to get. And I'd see some of these guys at the Woolloomooloo, And they come down, they'd be just dressed in thongs, shorts and T-shirts and, really low-key. And I'd say to these guys, good, how you going? Good, mate. Mate, I'm just going to have a quiet night tonight, a couple of beers, and then I'm going home. And then Sunday nights for us, it'd be our Friday night. Okay. So because we were doing sort of 5 nights a week in the 90s. So Sunday nights for us would be our Friday night drinks. So we'd then hang around with the staff at the Woolly Bay or the Palace or the Chloe, have a couple of drinks, and end up at, I think it was a Palladium back there, became the Empire. You had St Patrick's, you had Kitty O'Shea's. They had plenty of options.
That lug.
Oh, yeah.
That lug, those stairs,
come
on.
Well, yeah, you see, you'd have those Sunday night gigs. And then I'd be 3 or 4 in the morning, and I mightn't have had a few to drink. I might have had a couple, parked the car, and I don't know where I was living there at the time. And I'd see that same bloke walking down the stairs. I go, mate, what are you doing? He goes, oh, mate. And these guys would then have to go to work the next day and back it up.
Yeah.
And where we'd be going, I'm going to sleep in on Monday morning, because we're kind of working part-time jobs here and there. I worked in a fish and chip shop 2 days a week for the bulk of the 90s and early 2000s, making hamburgers. And, it's the good Greek boy,
Right.
So, but yeah, so that, you cut your teeth on those gigs. Mm. And then all of a sudden the vibe got up about the band, and we were all we were the younger version of all these guys. And because the name was Jellybean Jam, and it wasn't really like a concept like Le Club Nerd or One Hit Wonders, we were more like just these young guys that we decided to do medleys, and that was our thing. I started putting these medleys together, and I thought, well, I grew up on Stars on 45. Like, I've been a wog, go to the Castle Origin Club and listen to DJs and go, I like how that just goes to the next one. So then I just started doing these medleys, and then we made them fit really well. And we'd have like a love medley or a disco medley or an 80s medley or an animal medley, and we'd put songs with animal names in there. We somehow would make them all work. But then we'd throw up wigs and we had the coloured suits, and we'd have, props and stuff like that. So all of a sudden we were this fun young band that didn't take themselves seriously, had a really good repertoire. Yeah. That I think people started to go, oh, there's a new kid on the block, like literally. So we're going to start watching these guys. So then we started pulling decent crowds around town.
Yeah. Yeah, we used to come and see you guys at Castle Hill Tavern.
Oh.
This would have been...
The old tavern or the new tavern?
The old tavern.
Oh, so yeah.
The old room. And
Mate, you couldn't move in there.
That was the best.
Yeah.
So that would have been...
No, that would have been up to about
96, 97?
Yeah, and I think around end of 97 they opened up the new room where they finished that, and they opened up that big barn. And we did the opening night. I probably could even look it up. But we did the opening night, must have been 97, on that massive big stage. And all of a sudden the stage was like 4 metres high. So you felt like you could have...
No, that's the place I'm thinking of.
Oh, good. So before that...
And the band room was up...
Oh, yeah.
Right up the top in the top corner,
So before that, it was the room behind that. So that was... Right. There was an atmosphere. So it was... You could fit 500 people in that room, and you'd have a real low ceiling. The stage was maybe 600 mil high, and it was pumping. It was unbelievable. Again, packed out room. We supported the One Hit Wonders once, and that helped us as well. Like, so because back then a lot of the bands, the One Hit Wonders were supporting Bjorn Again. They were a no band, and then all of a sudden they did this run of dates with Bjorn Again. So they played to 600 people.
Oh right.
And then they went, who are these guys? And all of a sudden they had an amazing concept, the One Hit Wonders, and they were nailing it back then. So to be sort of one of those bands back then was pretty cool, considering we didn't have a concept. We were just this band that went, let's have fun, let's wear the coloured suits, let's do medleys and not take ourselves seriously and see where it gets us. And I just think we're lucky enough that we had a good lineup. We have always had good lineups, but we had a consistent lineup from 96 to 2000, same people for 4.5, 5 years. And I think at that time we were doing 4 nights a week. 1 year we did 225 gigs. So 1 December we did, I think, 26 gigs in 24 days.
Yeah, right.
And I think just that, but no in-ears back then. Smoky rooms, and everyone would just look out for each other. The guitarist back then, Dave Gutsy, like if he knew if I was struggling, he had a good voice too, and he was a bit of a showman too. So he'd look at me and just jump on board and start taking over, and I'd give him the thumbs up.
That's cool. Eh?
By the time the Sunday came, I was saying with the Woolloomooloo gigs and those kind of gigs, you're like, I'm dying. How about you guys singing the crowd? And it was great. Oh, I was just, I love it. So many of my good friends now I've met from the 90s. My wife, I met her like through gigs, but some of the best friends I've made were in the 90s coming out to those gigs, because they would come, say for instance the Woolloomooloo, that was not like a local, so that was like everyone's local because it was no one's local, if you know what I mean. Like Beach Palace was eastern suburbs, Clovelly, Birkenhead was the inner west, Woolloomooloo was Manly, Cronulla, Penrith, so we had people coming from everywhere, and at the Woolly Bay,
stumbling down from the cross.
Oh yeah. And you turn up at the Woolly Bay and you go, I'm just going to go out by myself tonight.
Yeah. Because
when I get there, I guarantee you I'll see someone that I saw last week. Then all of a sudden, these people just started becoming mates. You by yourself, come and hang with us. And it was just a great time in Sydney that without sounding negative, I just don't know whether the new millennial generation's ever going to get that live band. I don't think they ever will. And we had no mobile phones. We had phones back then, but nothing, it was a brick. You couldn't take any photos.
Yep.
So everything that was going on back then was just, if you're going to go out and say, Stevie, mate, I'm going to the Woolly Bay on a Friday, and all of a sudden Stevie doesn't turn up, there's no texting where are you, Steve, Facebooking where are you, Steve, Twitter, Instagram, I'm here. It's, mate, where's Steve? Okay, well, I'll ring his home the next day.
Yeah,
Steve's mum picks up. Oh, Steve, he's not here. He's like, where's, but it's different. Now it's like, it's just too easy to, I'm going somewhere else. And it's great too, like technology's been amazing.
Yeah.
So you can't, there's no, but back then it was not even innocent. It was between the 70s, it was after the 80s, it was kind of like the 90s. It was just as things are starting to change. Olympics was hitting Sydney.
Yep.
And, I think, but it just, you'd go out and you drink beer, spirits and wine. It was just before Stollies came out.
And all that, yeah.
Red Bull was coming out at some stage.
Yep.
So you just have a beer.
Yeah, that's
You'd
it.
have a Scotch and Coke.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden...
Just going back to that, communicating, finding out where each other is. For us, it was, we'd meet at the Northmead Bowling Club on a Thursday night and plan the weekend.
That's great.
And that place used to be packed on a Thursday night.
That's
no
social media.
music.
Ah.
There was no music. Maybe TV playing something, but everybody was there. So you knew what everybody was up to. You knew where all the parties were.
Yeah.
Because you went over to that table and you asked them, what are you guys up to this weekend? Oh, it's such and such's birthday. And
It was definitely a good time to reflect back in Sydney because, it's like now, with kids. Back then you'd ride your bike around and be home by the time the lights go off. Now it's just all a little bit scarier and all that. But it was probably just as scary back then, but we didn't feel it.
It wasn't in the media.
You didn't feel it, exactly.
Yeah,
things obviously went down. So I think back then in the 90s, you're right, that whole technology thing of you'd meet up and that was your Facebook.
Exactly.
That was your social media, mate.
Yep.
Talking to each other, going, what are you doing on the weekend? Great. And then turning up and having another night out. Now, And that's the good and the bad, but it's such a evil necessity because really even for us now, this whole thing with Facebook, with you put an event up and then, you co-host it with the venue. And we didn't used to do that up until about a year and a half ago, then realise that you co-host it with the venue and all of a sudden it goes on the venue's page and people start liking it, people start saying they're going. And you can kind of gauge now if you're going to have a half-decent night for the amount of people, not that they're saying they're going, but they're saying they're interested. And you go, okay, I think we might be all right tonight.
So just on that then, how do you think seeing that so many people are interested or going, how does that in a percentage translate to the people that actually turn up?
Yeah.
Because it's really easy for someone to hit that little interested star.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Look, I
do it.
Yeah, no, I'll do it if I think, and then I'll forget about it, and all of a sudden pops up and says, "This is coming." I go, I can't. I've got something on. But you're right. People straight away get that initial bang, interested. I think then you've got to just jump on and throw a little post up in that post saying, "Can't wait for next week." Oh yeah, it comes back up again. But you're right. I think a lot of the times, if you're putting up a date 6 months in advance, they'll go, yeah, it sounds great, but within 6 months, mate, something happens. You're overseas,
Yep.
You're not even hearing it. You know, you never know what happens. So it's like I think if you constantly just sort of throw it back out there and put something, it pops up in people's minds, and then it comes, oh yeah, cool. We're really careful with Jellies that we do so much corporate work that we also have got rooms that we love playing at. So when I'm booking, because I book the band as well, and when I book the band, I make sure that I look at booking and I plan the tour. I actually plan 12 months in advance, roughly, and I kind of then ring a couple of venues so I can give you a couple of dates. If something really good comes up, like an overseas trip, and they go, Andy, are you crazy?
Yeah.
You know, and it's a good relationship. But we're lucky enough after 26 years that we've built up that respect and rapport, and we do tend to pull a half decent crowd. You know, if it's a brand new room that we've never played at before, I'm dubious. I'm worried. You know, if it's a room that we're constantly going well at, like the Bayview Hotel, which is. We've been playing there for 26 years or 25 years. You know, they're great. Yep. We pull a great crowd, and we try to make sure that every time we play there, we're doing it a little bit differently, and so cool. People just don't turn up and go, here it is again. And that's one thing, I suppose, about Jellies. We've got over 7 or 8 hours worth of material. So we could, back in the days, in the 90s, you play the Woolloomooloo, and we could do a whole 5-week month and not repeat a song. And we would, because you do the ones that are the big ones, but you'd be able to then just pull out some random kind of song that you think is not going to go off, and it goes off, but it's a sing-along song. But you couldn't do it on a Friday night because we wouldn't have the crowd there that would jump along and would sing along to it. So, yeah.
Do you write set lists, or you call it off the cuff?
So we do write a basic set list, and my guitarist would probably, if he listens to this podcast, he'd go, yes, Andy. Like I would do it all along, because, you know, I'm sort of the sole member left in the band.
Yep.
And these guys, we've had a good similar lineup for a few years now, but and I've pushed a lot of those responsibilities on to some other people. And Adam, my guitarist, is kind of my right-hand man. I'm pointing left, but he's right-hand man. And I would say to him, you know, because I actually want to go out now and just mingle with my mates. I don't really want to be doing set lists. So I suppose I'd always run it a certain way, and then I'd always say to him, we'll do a set list, but on the night I'm constantly turning around and calling it, because you might have a group of 18-year-olds walk in there that go whatever, and then funnily enough, those 18-year-olds don't want to hear the new stuff that you just pulled in. They want to hear the retro. So you never really know. So we write it down. We write a set at a time. We don't write a full night. We never come printed with computer paper, and I just go zip. And then we just work it as the night's going, and I kind of just go, yeah, that's working. And you'll look at me and you'll go, what did you put that there for? But sometimes it'll kill it, and I'll go, that actually worked. You know, like Adam's great, and I give him that responsibility, but sometimes I kind of have to go, I think this might work a bit better.
Yeah.
Or I go, I can't hit that song, my voice hurts and it's a little bit on my top end, I'm going to cut it.
That's what
it's probably more the point, you know.
Yeah. Forgot to ask you earlier, where did the name come from? Jellybean Jam.
Yeah, so at the time, we were into listening to the band The Time. Like my drummer put me on the band called The Time. Now The Time were a band that featured in Purple Rain. They're the Prince band, so Morris Day and The Time, and they're just great. And they had very similar kind of crazy suits, and they had they would do all the Prince would write all their music, but then they would go under the name The Time. So he'd literally write a demo and go, here's the song. They would play it note for note. And Morris Day was this eccentric front man that would midway through a song would stop the band, and he'd call over his little lackey whose name was Jerome, and Jerome wasn't even like, he'd just dance. He'd go, bring me a mirror, and then Jerome would bring a mirror for him, and he'd do his hair, and the band would be stopped, and all of a sudden he'd go, and the band straight back in. And they started playing for Prince earlier on, and really started to, Prince kind of went, well, I can't get you guys opening for me anymore because you're really good. And so in that band they had a drummer called Jellybean Johnson, and they had Jimmy Jam and Terry Dawes. Right. So Jimmy Jam, Janet Jackson, all that kind of stuff. Big 90s kind of producer. So funnily enough, I was working in a milk bar at the time, at that milk bar, and I loved the Rock Melons, the name the Rock Melons. I loved Kid Creole and the Coconuts back in the 90s. Like I thought, I want a fun name. So when we were trying to find the name, I kind of went, Jellybean Jam. It kind of worked. And at the time, I went, well, that kind of works with the fact that we're going to go with coloured suits. because they're the colours.
So you decided on the suits at that
Yeah,
stage?
because we were doing them in Love in the Jungle.
With the colour.
To be honest, well, we didn't actually. When we first started, the first gig we ever did was at the Sydney Saloon. It was a Tuesday night, industry night, and to be honest, we didn't actually have the coloured suits. I lie, we went away from that. We thought we're not going to do the coloured suits.
Okay.
We were wearing these disgusting kind of flannelette. I don't know what they were, top and bottom. It was disgusting, and I had this. We were doing stuff like I go to Rio, so I had this pink sequence jacket I'd chuck on. Then we did our 70s disco, and we do these different sets, and that lasted for a little while. And I think we kind of went, let's go back to the suits. Right. And then when we went back to the suits, then it made sense with the whole Jellybean thing. And then with the Jam was like, well, with the medley. So all of a sudden it was like, kind of worked, but it didn't actually, wasn't that to start off with.
Right.
But the name came from that. Like I just wanted something fun with a name, like with a food in it or something where it didn't, no one took us really seriously. And again, we were just a band that wanted to play one night a week, do the Woolloomooloo, do the, maybe if we did 50, 60 gigs a year, we would have been happy, you know. And then this thing just kind of steamrolled. And then venues started picking us up going, I like what you're doing, you know. And what we would do is we would have a snail mail. Like I would send letters. We'd have a mailing list, which we'd 800 people back then. So we'd lick the envelopes, send them out, and we would do that every week. And we would write up these funny kind of things and have all the gigs on there. And I remember sending it to the licensee at the General Burke at the time, because I would go to say the Birkenhead Tavern, and I'd hassle the bloke out and go, can we get a gig? He goes, who are you, mate? I go like, oh, we're doing all these. Can I put you on the mailing list? And then I send it to him, and he start to see these gigs. He go, why can't I get this band? And it's funny because the guy at the General Burke is a great guy. He wrote back to me. He wrote us an email, like a letter back, and said, I think you need to take me off your mailing list because I can't get. I'm not, because we used to play the Collector Tavern.
Yep.
And at the time, the Collector Tavern was like, you can't play the General Burke. So I was
is
like,
that right?
Yeah, I think it was, or if you did one, you couldn't do it within 2 or 3 weeks after, which is great, which is how I plan my year now anyway. Like I try to make sure we're not in the same area for a month or two, like so we don't obviously impact the other room.
Yeah, that's smart, yeah.
Yeah, and he goes, but every time I try to get a date off your agent, they told me I can't get in here, so there's no point me getting this mailing list if I can't get you, but I really want you. So then we ended up playing the General Burke, and we did the industry nights on a Monday night, and back then you'd have, like once a month they'd have an industry night and they'd have a different band, and it was just like a Friday night, but again it was all, everyone around the area, the General Burke, the Collector Tavern, Parramatta Leagues, everyone would know that's the night to go out if you work behind the bar or you're a manager or you're whatever, and you go and see a live band. It was open to the public, but it was like, you know, free to, well, I can't remember whether it was free or not, but the industry people, but it was like an industry night. So that's how we started to roll with it, and then all of a sudden people started going, I like the concept, I don't know about the name, but it works. Yeah. So it was really just a Jimmy Jam, Jellybean Johnson, Jimmy Jam, and I went, right, that works. Yeah. Right. But it's not a great story.
It's an awesome story.
Is it? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Is that something, you kind of feel like when you're trying to explain it to people sometimes.
I don't think I blinked, did I?
No, you didn't. There you go.
When do you think, when did you hit the peak? When did you think, was there an actual peak, and then did you see it start to...
We didn't really start doing a lot of corporate work till around the Olympics. So when 2000 came around, it kind of changed the whole structure of Sydney. So home nightclub, Pontoon, all those bars started to happen. So, So all of a sudden, even Friday nights, go and see bands, there's a real dip in going to see, like, the 90s were great. Like I said, you work 5 nights a week. You do a Wednesday night Marble Bar residency, a Thursday night at Quakers, a Friday night at El Rancho. So, and then all of a sudden the Olympics came up and everyone was preparing for it, and Sydney was going through this big change, and then all the cool nightclubs started happening. And I think we hit our heights for the public side of it around the late 90s, and always, they're going to be forever in my heart. Right? But then we went, okay, so I think we need to move with the times, and our repertoire wasn't stuck with being one hits or doing nerd songs. So we had the ability to change it up a little bit and actually go, well, we got great medleys. We fill dance floors. We can do the Neil Diamonds, we can do the ABBAs, but we can also do the on back, say for now, Uptown Funk, like modern stuff. But back then in the 2000s, we were starting to do some of the modern stuff that were out as well. And I think all of a sudden it was like, around the Olympics, we did, I think, 13 days straight with functions in the Olympics. We did
leading up to?
Yeah, or from the Olympics.
Oh, from the Olympics,
yeah.
Yeah.
But with SOCOG, they were great. We did 300 days we did a gig at Martin Place, 300 days to the Sydney Olympics, 200 days, and we go and do it, and they do the countdown. Brilliant. So SOCOG loved us, and they gave us all this work, and around that Olympics time. So I think then it kind of made us, just before that and around that time, it made us go, all right, well, there's a market for us. And I'm so glad that we did, because if we were to try to, I'm not as young as I used to be back then. That's 26 years ago. That's 2000. So 19 years ago. But we thought, okay, well, we can do this and we can find that market, and we did. And I think people started to then go, hey, we used to see you in the 90s. We're now booking this event, and they might have been 23, 24, 25 in the 90s. All of a sudden they're 31, 32. They could be a CEO, or they could be a head of marketing or head of events. And I saw this great band, Jellies, and then all of a sudden, that corporate side started to really, really pick up, and it ended up becoming that by the end of the 2000s, I think I keep everything on file. We would do, say, I think we were doing 70% public, 30% corporate, 50%. Now it's swung around, and we'll probably do, say, 70% corporate and 30% or thereabouts pubs and clubs. Mm-hmm. So again, like I said, if we were to be doing pubs and clubs all the time now, we do about 125 to 130 gigs a year. We wouldn't be doing, I reckon we'd do about 60, 70 gigs a year if it was just pubs and clubs.
Okay. And
even then, because we tend to pull a crowd, but so we can now, with the band now, we can do a dinner set. We never did dinner sets back in the 90s. We were doing, Come On Eileen, My Sharona, Devo, Jacksons. We weren't doing Norah Jones and stuff, but obviously you have to adapt to all that. And that's so nowadays people go, they know the name. They might remember us from the 90s, but they're all a bit older too. But even if they've never seen us before, they go, I've heard great things about you guys, or you were at this charity ball that my friends saw. And so it's not even really seeing the band or having seen the band that they would like to book or at least inquire about it,
It also seems like at the moment too, there's this focus on those 80s, 90s type bands now.
They're massive, and that's great. Like there's like Never Ending 80s out there who are absolutely killing it. Like I know Dave. Dave's a great guy, and Dave won't mind because I've listened to the podcast with Dave.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. And Dave would come out when we were playing at the Clavelli, and he was just became a mate through friends. Yep. But he would come out and watch the band, and Dave would be standing there at the Clavelli Hotel watching us. And then he ended up joining Masterpiece, played with them for I think some other bands with Masterpiece. Mm-hmm. But it's funny because like Dave was right amongst it in those 90s. So he has captured it so well with Adam. I don't know Adam, but with Adam and however they've done it, and they've got great backing behind them. But they really found the right time to do it. Mm. And they've got the right concept, and it's just going gangbusters. And
lots of people trying to copy it. But not doing half the job.
No, I kind of wish that at the time, like funny, like in the 90s. So we did just to change it up a little bit because we were with Southbeat back then, and Steve Wade, a good buddy of mine, said, back then the One Hit Wonders were doing like One Hit Wonders does the best of the tribute bands, or One Hit Wonders does they were doing shows. The Club Nerds were doing the ABBA show. They were doing whatever. It was funny. So he goes, you guys should do a show just to break it up a little bit. So much to the dismay of my guitarist, who he did it. But we had this whole, we called it Jellybean Jam Presents the Electric 80s, and we did it for about 12 weeks, and it went okay. But we had I was Andy Ant back then, so I look at Never Ending 80s now and I go, you know what, in the 90s I'm going to put up the promo because I've still got it. Yeah. And I was Andy Ant, so I had the full Andy Ant thing. Our bass player Rob was Simon the Bob. Our drummer was Dave Kirby was Dave Ure. He struggled to get one for Dave, but we had our singer was Danielle, so she was Danny Lennox. We had another girl called Joanne, so she was Boy Joe. And then we had and Dave, our guitarist, he was Davo, so he was dressed as Devo, but he was Davo.
Right.
And I loved it because I grew up in the 80s was for me, you know. Like, they were but to do an 80s show in the 90s just didn't have the same, because you were going through that the grunge thing was starting or whatever. It didn't feel right.
Yep.
20 years later, the 80s thing now is like killing you.
Yeah,
and there's a great band out there, a guy called Chris Stretton, he's got a band called Bandcamp, and they're now doing this, and so they're doing a 90s concept, and straight away with the gigs they started doing, I mean, I've just been following it on social media, and you can see straight away they've captured it. They've got the Teenage Dirtbag, the Weirdest, all that kind of stuff. They look the same way. And now it's kind of ready to do a 90s kind of tribute band, because if you did it maybe last decade, it didn't feel like it could be done. So I think sometimes, you know, those songs, we're doing songs now that we did 20 years ago that after 10 years I went, can we never do that song again? But all of a sudden, Shania, Man, I Feel Like a Woman, we go, why don't we pull it out? It goes nuts, because the age group that's coming out to watch the bands, a lot of the bands these days, when we do these particular shows, they're 35, 40 plus.
That's what I was getting to.
Yeah. They're not the 18, 19, 20-year-old. Like, they'll come out, but they'll look at me and they'll go, you know, we don't still wear the coloured suits, although here's a tip. I think we're going to bring it back.
Awesome.
Because I think for a while there, we started becoming a little bit too serious because of the corporate.
Right.
And we felt like... And that was my directive to the guys, was like, I think, you know... And I was going through a bit of a time there where I didn't actually want to do the pubs and clubs as much anymore. I wanted to do the corporate, and not because of the pay structure. I just kind of went, you know what, I was a bit over it. But then all of a sudden, there was this shift, like you're saying, exactly what you're saying. The crowd of that age group started to go, hey, my kids, I mean, I got an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old, so it's different. Like, and there's kids that might have their 18, 19, 20-year-olds, so they can go out now. Yep. So we're getting these groups of 10 to 12, 40 plus, 45 plus people coming out. They have a great time.
Yep.
So all of a sudden, a lot of people that used to come out and see us in the 90s are starting to come out again.
Back, yeah.
So when I go and do these pubs and clubs gigs, I love it, because I might know 5 or 6, 7 people at a time on the night. And hence why I get the guitarist to do the set list, because I want to go out and mingle, catch up with people I haven't seen in ages. So it's that shift, and all of a sudden that shift is great. You look at the crowds, the 80s, never reading 80s are bringing in and stuff, and you look at, it's great because it doesn't feel like there's ever any trouble.
Yep.
Everyone's fun, having a good time, because they're reliving what they had in the 90s.
That's it.
And that's a good thing, you know, rather than there's not the angst that, you know, maybe kids are going through these days, where they're so used to instant likes, instant, like someone like my post, someone like whatever, like I want to buy something, I want to buy it now, where's my email didn't come through, you sent it, did you send it? I didn't get it. Text didn't come through. Back then, you're reliving that kind of carefree 90s where it, like you said, man, you go to Northmead on a Thursday night and you just go, what are we doing this weekend? So I think it's kind of the same, that they're all friends. They might be parents that they've met through school, and they go, let's have a night out. I used to see this great band in the 90s. I used to see this great band in the 90s. Who? Oh my God, let's do it. And they come out and they go, what's that old bloke still doing on stage?
Yeah.
You know, amongst all the young'uns.
Yeah.
What's this bloke
doing?
I
used to come out and see this band called Jellybean Jam in the 90s, and now I'm sitting with you.
There you go. There you go.
Here we are.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Now, going back to the Olympics.
Yeah.
Now, you guys played for the athletes.
Yeah.
Right. I've heard some stories about some of those sort of athlete after functions.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
Pretty crazy,
mate.
Right.
The one we did at Home Nightclub was it was the last night. It was literally the last night of the Olympics, and
that was televised a bit, wasn't it? I remember.
It might have been.
I remember the Dutch swimmers, because they carved up, didn't they?
Yeah.
What was the name? Inga de Bruin.
Yes.
Inga de Bruin or something like that, and the other Dutch singer, Dutch swimmer. Yeah, I remember seeing shots of them.
Oh, it was great, man. Like that for us, that was the end of that real big 13 days straight or whatever it was. And,
right.
And at that time, we'd just gotten a new girl in, Rochelle, so she just joined the band. And her first 2 weeks were 13 gigs straight, or 11 gigs or whatever it was. And the last night was home nightclub, upstairs, downstairs, going crazy. We were massive stage. And I remember there was the English rowing team, or one of them had won gold. So they're all dancing in the crowd. They got their gold thing, and I've gone, stop. Can I wear it? And like stop the whole crowd. And then because the good thing about that is you had a multi-national, like an international crowd.
Yeah.
You weren't just playing, like you said, like you're playing to, the Swedes, you're playing to whatever. So the style of music we were playing, we played everything. We didn't just do Australian stuff. We did everything. So we'd do our ABBA, we'd do whatever. So they all know the songs, right? But even then, they're all celebrating anyway. They wouldn't care what you're playing, right?
Yeah.
So I've gone to the guys, like, can you stop? Can I grab that gold medal? So then this gold medal has just been sort of brought up along from person to person to person. So I then wear this gold medal, right, on stage, and I'm singing away going, how good is this, right? So after we finish, I'm like, please, can this gold... we're not going to start till you hand it back to that person. So they were like the back of the room, and this gold medal's being handed back to them.
Wow.
And it was pretty cool.
That's
like,
cool,
please don't lose that, Because, so that was awesome, just through all the corporate sponsors that worked around that time, the name really became sort of cemented in that corporate scene as well. Geez, Jellybean Jam did that, and all of a sudden it sort of kick-started the next phase,
Yeah.
But they were great. All of the part. Although we did a couple where we worked just where the Sydney Bridge Climb is now, like next door, and we did these 4 functions where we had to do a dinner set and had to do we had 2 sets of gear back then, so we would just leave it, turn back up again, and then we'd go up, get in there. We do this dinner set, and these people would come along, have dinner, listen to the dinner set, and we're ready to do a set of dancing. They'll leave. They all left.
Oh.
So the organiser would go, don't worry, just go home. So we do this like 45-minute set of nothing and then finish and go home. Happened 4 times. So they were quite easy, those ones. We didn't sort of work too hard in those. But that was just the thing around that time. There was so much going on. Sydney was buzzed up,
Yeah.
But I kind of felt like it dropped a little bit after that for the live entertainment, because those nightclubs started. The Darling Harbour was all the rage, the Cockle Bay, all that kind of stuff. And people would then go, that new next generation would start going, hey, it's cool, man, I'm going on Friday night and I'm digging the DJs and the house and whatever it was back then, and I won't go and see a live band anymore. And a lot of the time the city gigs had gone, but then you'd hit the suburbs, and the suburbs still liked them. Yeah, right. Rocking the suburbs, Ben Folds. Like you go back out and you'd always do well out west or, in the northern beaches, and there'd always be still a decent kind of live feel, but venues would come and go. As you know, venues would come and go.
Yeah. See, for me, it was, I first came to Australia in end of 95. Started playing in bands from 96, 97, 98.
Yeah.
99, I started discovering the...
right amongst it.
Oh, yeah. Then, for me, it was kind of... I was starting to cross over into that whole nightclub thing.
Yeah.
And then I ended up leaving the band so I could...
Go out.
Go out for 4 days.
Yeah.
So I kind of saw that sort of happen,
Yeah.
Ended up coming back to it though.
Yeah, it's nice, and I think now there's a definitive. If you want to do that, you can do that. But this, like I said, that like we were saying, that age, like we played at the Sands the other night, and we haven't been in the northern beaches for ages.
Yeah, right.
And I was a little bit worried about, but mate, it was great. It was
choppers,
right. And
it sounds good.
Yeah, and it was, but it was like a good. Even like they said, it was a bigger crowd than not so much the concert bands, because concert bands are concert bands, but they were like, oh, geez, okay, I didn't expect you to get that much, because it was a young guy, he was cool. He was young guy that was managing the band, so probably hadn't even heard of us before, to be honest.
Yep.
He was probably younger than 25 and hadn't really heard of us, all right? But It's my daughter next door.
Do you want to stop it?
No, she's
okay.
No, it's my daughter trying to grab a cookie
Sweet.
in the room next door. It's good that the live scene's slowly picking back up again. You know, it's different, but it's good for us. It's probably not as good for other bands. Like some of the bands I know have said, wish it was stronger.
Yep.
I suppose if we hadn't done that hard work in the 90s,
that's it.
We wouldn't be having this conversation about we're going for 26 years.
Exactly. Yeah.
To hit 25 years, again, that to me, I said to you before, Stevie, like when we started the band, I was just like, man, I just want to play, and back then I just want to front a band. I want to be silly, want to carry on. I don't want to play keyboards. I just want to muck around. And this was like the next kind of, as close as my acting could have been. I can be an actor on stage. I can muck around and I can do that. And and then I went along and did some, the occasional home and away guest spot. And, All Saints, and did some heap of commercials. I was the Nickerbait guy for 12 months in the elevator, like I was a Lava Life guy.
Oh, that's right, you were too.
Yeah.
The Nickerbait guy.
The guy, and I've never smoked in my life. Yeah. When that Lava Life was launched, I was like the Lava Life dude. So we'd be doing these gigs, and it was a real funny ad. It was an ad about, they were launching it in Australia, and literally they were pretending that you had like a remote. And then I was interviewing these girls at a sushi restaurant and asking them questions. And every time I didn't like someone, I'd flick them off. And then, and it was, and by the end of it, it was like this girl asks me a question and I give her the wrong answer, so she flicks me. And the tag was, and Lava Life, I don't think is around anymore, but it was he was like started all those things up, RSVP, whatever. But it said when singles click. So we'd be doing gigs at pubs, and then 12:30 at night, and all of a sudden my ad turns up on the TV, and I get one of the girls hitting me in the arm, going, "There you are." And I go, "Oh God, yeah, singles click, please no." But it was a funny ad. It wasn't like one of those real, call me. It was just a real. It was a clever ad.
Yeah.
So I kind of had my acting on the side, and then I was acting in Jellybean Jam, and then and never, like I said, never have said. I always felt like I was more an actor than a performer.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story. Like this actually funny last week. When you start doubting yourself a little bit and you start sort of thinking, my use by date, all that kind of stuff, and how do I feel about it? I mean, at the age that I'm at now with an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old, I love spending time with my kids. So every now and then, I work from home so I can pick them up from school and do whatever. My wife works a pretty high, tough sort of job, and she does the 9 to 5. I still work at home, like I'm working all the time, but I've got the leniency,
Gotcha.
And then sometimes you go, oh geez, I wish I was just at home watching a movie with them on the lounge tonight. It's too cold to get up and do the gig.
Yeah.
But went to a funeral on Monday, and literally this funeral was we did a cruise back in 2013. So we'd done those big sort of choose your cruise, and we did this and we met this lovely bunch of, when they're probably older than the 40, they're probably in the mid 50s, right? Or probably even late 50s, some of these people. Group of 12 to 14 Italian people. They ended up knowing one of the girl, Natasha, in the band's parents, right? Local to here. We didn't know they were local. We're doing this cruise. Roosters were playing the grand final 2013. I couldn't even go to the freaking game. I had to watch it. Anyway, that's another story. But it killed me. But anyway, so we're there, and we just meet these people, lovely people. They all come up on these cruises. You're basically amongst them for 7 days. And they're chatting away, and we got on really well. And I think I like to have a bit of a chat, So got on really well with them, found out they were at 5. One actually lived around the corner from me. Lady got ill, lovely lady, she got ill, and she and I went to the service on Monday, and it was packed, and literally the son got up and started chatting, and he said all this stuff, how she loved Daryl Braithwaite and horses and all that kind of stuff, and he said Mum even would drag us out to see Jellybean Jam, right? And I went, wow, and like that kind of, like I went and I didn't expect to hear the name Jellybean Jam up there, right? And then even they finished the little talk, and then even the priest goes, what about Jellybean Jam? Aren't they great? And I'm going, this is the Catholic priest going, what about Jellybean Jam? I'm going, I'm not sure what gig he came to. Was I foul-mouthed? Was I encouraging people to swear? I don't know. But it kind of made me realise what we give, like realistically, like you could be having a crap day, you could be having a whatever, you could have the biggest migraine. And when I was saying to you before about I see myself as an entertainer, a performer, like an entertainer more than a singer, I think just looking at that and hearing them say that kind of hit home a little bit. And I went, even if I say I want to retire or do whatever, what we as entertainers and performers give to people that don't do that, and they spend their Friday nights and Saturday nights and they come out and they watch the band, and you could be having a shit night, but they don't know that. And if you don't show them, that that's happening, they're there with their friends, and even for us, I mean, I think I'm a sociable guy, and even back in the 90s, as I said before, I met so many people from the band, but it was just because I was happy they were coming to see the band. So we'd be on stage, and if I knew someone in the crowd, like I'd make sure that I'd at least eye contact them or give them a wave.
Yeah, cool.
And without trying to sound pompous, like the guy next to that guy would turn around and go, I know the bloke in Jellybean Jam. They go, oh, you do not. I'm just a cover band. Like really, it was just a cover band.
Yeah.
But then next song, I give him a little wave, and his mate looks at him and goes, what? And we all become mates. They come up and they have a beer with you afterwards, and they have a chat. The next week they come back. They bring their mates. The next week they come back. So going back to even with that, we just became friends with these people. I see them locally now, and her husband's such a lovely guy, without harping on what happened. But it just makes you, it just sort of hit home a little bit, and I went, wow, like to hear that at someone's funeral. Yeah. You go, man, like you never want to take for granted what you're allowed to do. And it's not, my best mate will say to me, I go, man, I'm really lucky to have been in the band for 26 years. He goes, shut up. He goes, you worked your ass off for 26 years to get where you are. You're not lucky, you've done it. But I think I'm lucky to be able to do it. Is my point. Like not lucky that I've been able to do it, but lucky that I can do it. Yeah. And get that reaction. Yeah. And sometimes when you're in a shit mood and you see people having a great time, by the end of the night, you might be going, well, that's good, and you feel better about yourself.
Yeah. I was going to ask you what keeps you motivated, but I think
that's pretty
much answered that.
Yeah, and just that whole thing, mate. Like we've been able to go to Singapore. We've travelled in the 25 years. We've done gigs in the States. Illegally. That was fun in the 90s, right? Like just that's another story. But then we've been flown to Bali, we've done Beijing, we've done the Singapore Ozchan Ball 6 years in a row. Like they never booked the same band more than 1 year in a row. We'd done it a couple of times before that, over 3 years. And then one day they said, we'll book you back the next year. I'll book you back the next year. And actually after that second year I thought, it wasn't as good a night. They won't book us back. Booked us back again. Right. This year must have been a shit year last year because they haven't booked. No, they did say we want to try something. And I actually would say to them, I'd always email them and go, guys, I would not be offended if you did something different this year. Because, for us, that's how we run our business. We want to make sure I'll offer you something else. And they would go, no, book it in. So this year I said I always ask the same question. They go, look, put it on hold, and then they come back and say, look, we're going to try something local for this year. I said, that's cool, but that's not to say we don't want you back. We might get you back next year. I said, look, don't even have to say that. Like the fact that we've had the opportunity to go to Singapore and play, it's great, And for us, it's like a whole new. You're playing to Australian audiences. All of a sudden, you're playing to Australian audiences over there, but also international. And when you say what motivates you, I mean, getting older, it's harder. Yeah. It's harder, and like you said before, it's for you. It's with young kids too. They're my main focus now. And my family, and I think I've given enough to the industry over 3,500 gigs, 26 years. That sometimes I feel like I go, I really want to have a night off, and I get a bit guilty. But then even the guys in the band, we've got people that fill in. So we're lucky enough that someone's crook, someone can fill in, Or with two girls up front, if I'm crook, I just look at them and they can jump on board, and the girls will do more songs, or vice versa. And sometimes I go, what would happen? But then I think the name will always, as long as I've hopefully a part of it, which I will be, and even if I decide one day to hang up my boots full time and I semi-retire from it, I'll always I want to come back and do the occasional gig here and there. But I think I just hope it's just been fixed up well enough and done well enough that people understand to be part of that band. This is what it's all about, and then it just sort of rolls on and rolls on.
Yeah. I mean, your face is synonymous with the band.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So to be able to do something like that.
Yeah,
that would be tricky.
It's tough, and that's and sometimes you kind of
you'd have to have your replacement kind of
look the same.
No, maybe not look the same, but like I know sharing the gig and you stepping away and
and I think that's
something like that. Yeah.
To be honest, I mean, I've with kids like my little one Ava, she's kicking goals
Acting.
at the moment. She's just really like she's 8 and she's like a little act like she's just I don't know where
she was in a movie with Olaf, eh?
Yeah, she's just finished her 5th film.
Right. So what I meant by Olaf is Josh Gad.
Josh Gad, Lupita Nyong'o, she's in a film called Little Monsters.
Yeah.
Just filmed. She was in a film called Dirt Music, which is a Tim Winton book, with some an American actor, Garrett Hedlund, and Kelly MacDonald, who was in Nanny McPhee in Boardwalk Empire. Julia Stone plays her mum from Angus and Julia Stone.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and then and that zombie film is just coming out. So all the stuff that she's done in the last 2 years are actually starting to now be released. She did a film with Hugo Weaving called Hearts and Bones, just a small scene. And we just flew over to, I can say this, but she flew over and she did a film she's doing a film called Kate, where she plays a young version of a lady called Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Right. She's got to go back and do a scene with Woody Harrelson. Like my 8-year-old daughter's going to film with Woody Harrelson. And we flew over to Thailand.
Wonder which Woody Harrelson you get.
What's that?
Wonder which Woody Harrelson you get.
Hey man, yeah. But and I think, and my title, I joke about it, but I'm Dadager. So I look at my wife does a great job as well. But I suppose I tend to sit in this office here. We do self-tests, we get it all done, and we do so much work on it. And she just gets it. And my son was doing it for a while too, but he's now he's retired at the age of 11. Dad, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I just want to play my video games and do it, which I love. And I was a bit disappointed when he said to me, "I don't want to do it, Dad," because as a parent you go, "But I wanted to," and I'm living, through my daughter, right? To be honest, I mean, I haven't worked for a couple of years, and I'm going, really? Maybe there'll be a supporting
Out of the way,
role.
this is how I do it.
There's a supporting role for me in there, just to walk on. Funnily enough, in that Little Monsters, both Jack, my son, and
I'm just looking at the battery. Sorry.
Yeah. Both Jack, my son, and myself, we got to be zombie extras in the film.
Oh, wicked!
And it was fun. I was on set all the time, and they just go, "Hey, dads and mums, like, do you want to just be in it?" I said, "Yeah," and it was great. For me, it was just like I had to put 3 hours worth of makeup on, my throat slit and stuff like that. And that's really been the other inspiration for me too, is like that, if I've gotten bored with the band, I then have this other side of it, other than the back-to-back Roosters 2018-19. I've got that. Did I throw that in?
I was saying I can cut things. No, I'm just kidding.
Then I've got that happening. The senior kids get older, and and I didn't start playing music till I was 13, 14, 15. So when you look at your kids and you go, "Oh, Jack, you don't want to play," like he started playing guitar when he was 7. Don't want to do it anymore, Dad. I've got all the keys here. I've got guitars here.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, and I don't play. I can't play them. I muck around on them, but I have them in this room so they can come in and go, "Dad, can I?" So, but good enough. Jack started learning trumpet at school.
Cool.
And they got a performance, like they did a school performance. It's more like fart noises at the moment, but it's good. It's hilarious. And my daughter's playing flute, but I'm so happy that they've picked it up finally, And I would go, "Jack, you don't want to do it." And I was disappointed when he said he didn't want to act anymore. But then I go, "Hang on a sec, man. You didn't do it till you're 13, 14, 15. And really, from my parents' point of view, I'm the only one that's ever done the kind of band music stuff and the acting stuff. So it wasn't like it was honed in from my parent, and we grew up in a obviously different kind of whole, WOG parents would be going, "Why you want to be you're not an actor, go and work." Like, no, they never had a problem with that. Mum and Dad too, when he passed away. Then Mum, for the last 30 years, would come to my gigs. regularly. Like she would come until 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, and then to the point where she would struggle with the driving, and then I would just go, Mum, I'll pick you up and take you home. But she'd always sit there and go, that's my boy, like it's beautiful. So I miss that as well. But you'd see them come along to the gigs, and she would be very I think when Dad was passing away, like my mum sort of said to my dad, I'm a bit worried about him. Mum told me this about 15 years later. I'm a bit worried about, he wants to be a musician. Back then I was only really first band, like we're all, back then it was like, we're going to be rock stars. We would write our originals and pull them out at the gig and go, this one was from Sido Echo, like that. It's a B-side, was one about whatever, And he said to Mum, he goes, if he wants to do it and he's good enough, let him do it. And I never heard that till about 15 years after, and I kind of went, cool, that's cool. That's good. That's it was nice to know, Yeah.
Yes, it's kind of passing that on now.
Yeah, and so with my kids too, I'd say to Jack and Ava, like whatever you want to do, you do. If Ava decides to turn around tomorrow and say I don't want to do it anymore, I would smack her across the head and go, are you serious? No, I would go, no, it's cool, but.
Bring up casting and see if you can do it instead.
Yeah. I can put on the baby voice, but with her stuff, I spent 5 weeks in Perth last year.
Yep.
Which was awesome. So I got to stay on set with her for 5 different weeks. My wife went for a week. We did a week in Thailand. Like you kind of like, I dig it. I just go, yeah. What do you got next, Ava? What do you got next? What can I sponge off next?
Right, and then Jellies is kind of looking after itself in the meantime. Yeah.
And to be honest. Stevie, if something major was to come out of it, like I'm talking out of my ass right now, but she's done some great stuff already. She's got a pretty good resume for an 8-year-old.
Yep.
If something was to happen with her, then I kind of know at the age that I'm at, I go, do I want to keep, and I love singing, or do I want to, what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
And it's going to be a tough call, but mate, I mean, that's the next.
Yeah.
You never know what happens, you never know what happens.
Yeah, Now, at what stage did you see yourself as more than just the performer? When did you start seeing, oh man, I think I'd like to start booking this band and managing this band? And because, you would have been, because you were saying Jellies was with South Beat early on.
Yeah.
And then you've kind of got it set now where it's all you guys now.
Yeah.
You've got your own agency and basically...
Well, I think that sort of around I think we had our various people looking after us and all that kind of stuff. And then I suppose I was always hands-on anyway. And like I said earlier on, I would go out to venues and I'd actually introduce myself and I'd be the chatter and, how you going? And because I was a front man in the band as well and I owned the band, and all of a sudden it just made it really easy for them to start talking to me. And I think by the time I decided that... I started working at South Beat for a while, for about 4 or 5 years with Chris Cook, with Wadey, and I was looking after all the Jelly stuff. And at that time too, what would happen was we'd get all these inquiries for Jellies that they go, we would get like about 350 inquiries a year off our website. Like that's massive. It's different now because there's so much. Not opposition, but so much, so many different bands out there, so many websites. The internet has just progressed as well, But back, say, 10 years ago, it was a little bit more primitive websites. If you had a good website, people knew the band. Then I would just go, oh, cool, look, we're booked out. And then I just ring my mates up and I go, hey, man, there's a gig here if you want it. And they go, oh, that's cool, man. Like, what do you want? I go, oh, no, don't worry. Like, I'd rather someone get it, And then it happened the next week, then it happened twice the week after, and all of a sudden I went to Rob, my business partner, at the time I thought I was talking to South Bend, and I went, these have to go somewhere, so I could possibly make a business out of this, because realistically the initial inquiries for us, and they liked what they saw with Jellies. So we had another band called Peppermint Jam working for a while, and literally the inquiries would go, like if it wasn't us, it went to Peppermint Jam, and then it got even bigger than that. Then I thought, well, cool, okay, we got, One Hit Wonders, we got all these other bands. So then we decided to put together a company, a website, and on that website, it had about 4 or 5 bands to start off with, to the point now where it's probably got about 40 or 50, and it's going to be updated again. But the whole thing about it is, with this PartyBands site, we don't actually look after the bands direct. We're like a portal, if you can call it that, like a consultant. someone emails us, we're booked, and straight away I say to them, hey, look, I've been in Jellies for 26 years. We've done all those venues. We know the work quite well. Then they have that trust in you, and they go, oh, cool. Well, what can you get me? And I send them referrals, and they might say to me, who do you think? And I go, well, look, it depends what you want, because these bands are all different. This band's good at this band's good at that, or it's your call. And promo's good, so it sells itself. So eventually I think, I just kind of, as that was becoming more and more prevalent, that we were just handing off work to other people, I thought, well, and also with the whole thing of like getting a little bit older, going, so if I'm still singing Jellies at the age of 60 and that's all I do, that's a little bit, what am I going to do? Yeah. So like, you know.
You'd be the Wobblies.
Look, we did a gig last Friday at Right Eastwood, and it was a great crowd. And I did the old, went out in the crowd, and some lady was getting quite romantic with her husband on the chair, and so I sort of looked at her, and she looked at me, and then I basically sat on his lap. The cabaret side of me is always going to come out. I've always called Jellies when it was at its height, and we went away from it, and now I'm trying to bring it back as pub cabaret. Like
pub cabaret, cool.
Yeah, well, we do clubs, but when we do our pubs, it was always, I felt like it was a bit more of a pub cabaret kind of feel. Like, I'm that pub cabaret kind of guy that I'm happy to take the piss out of myself. I said to you, I don't think I've got a great voice, and I've probably talked myself down enough, but I feel like I've got a likeable face, and if I'm out there, I want to muck around with the crowd, and I feel like that is a big part of Jellies, as you said before.
Yeah.
And so, I thought if I'm going to keep doing that to the age of whatever, it's coming handy, And so that's how that whole thing of like was, well, but I'm kind of good at booking the band. I know the rooms. I know the client. I know how to talk to clients. I know what's a good band and what's not a good band, and I'm happy to. And then it's been nice. There are a lot of bands that we help out or we book that, maybe they're saying nice things about me to my face, but I feel like they respect me, and they will ask me advice, and I'll say, look, in this instance, what would you do? If we want to get promo done, what would you do? And it feels nice. It feels nice that I go, okay, well, so maybe I am doing the right thing, and they're getting the work, and then they might say, we've done this, what do you think? And I go, look, I think that'll work, but if you change it a little bit, and might listen to me, and a lot of the times they do, and I go, oh, that's pretty cool. And so then moving into this next phase of my life, if it means that I've still got a handle on what's going on out there, and I've still... Look, with Jellies, I suppose that, when we say we change, we modify, we've got, younger people than me in the band. So when this whole social media stuff started coming out, and really the last 2 or 3 years, Natasha, one of the girls in the band, she joined the band on our 20th anniversary, all right? So she was 20. So when I said Natasha's joining the band live on stage, we gave her 4 or 5 days of, that week we had 4 gigs in a row. I said, come and trial. And by the second gig we went, yeah, she's great. So when we announced that she was joining the band at the age of, on our 20th anniversary year, she wasn't even born when the band first started. And that's when you start to doubt yourself, and you go, really?
Oh, man.
But, and we got Michelle in the band, who's fantastic. She's been in the band for 7 or probably 8 years. Yep. Adam, our guitarist, for 12 years, a drummer for probably 2005. The bass player for 6 years, and he filled in before that. I think so. We always try to change it. Like, I don't just stay with the same look routine. But if one of the young kids comes up and says, "Hey, why don't we try this?" I might veto it and say, "I don't think that's going to work," but I'll give it a go. And if it doesn't work, or I might say that'll work in this room, but I don't think that'll work. So I'm open to ideas. Yeah. But and sometimes I'll say flat no, I don't think it's going to work, right? But then I also want to make sure that we're constantly evolving and changing. So when I step down eventually, it's not going to be the Jellies of although I'm trying to bring that kind of vibe back for the pubs. I'm trying to bring that vibe back for the crowd that's coming to see us live. That is our market. When we do the corporate show, it's completely different. Yeah. Black tie, dinner sets. We work what's going to work there. But so if you don't keep evolving the act and listening to what's around you. And we were talking about technology before, and you know, Natasha does an amazing job on social media, and she'll video at the gigs. And I saw you would have seen it, like you know, and she does amazing stuff and little funny quotes. And then I'll jump on and put something on there. And
that's it.
And even now we're trying to. I've been a bit slack, but I will go back and rehash a lot of the old videos that we had from before. And, you know, with this whole Instagram thing, you've got that IGTV, Instagram TV,
Man,
which is great.
Use it. I use it all the time.
It's awesome. We've put up one thing, but I just got to start doing it. And even trying to do like Flashback Fridays or whatever, there's so much good content that we can put up that people go, oh my God, when you played at Wendy Leagues and you put that video up, I think I was at that gig, like 25, you know, So I got to pull my finger out a little bit, you know, and get stuck into it. So, but there's so much I want to put out there to show that I've kept, because I film, I document. I've always done it. I've always had stuff. Even with my kids, I'm the bloke there that's got all this footage. And when they get older, you know, when we grow up, we didn't have the Super 8s in our family. We probably couldn't afford, maybe not afford. My parents wouldn't know what it was. But back then, you know, you sort of try to video everything and have it all there. So when you go back and you look at my kids will remember what their yaya or their mum, what my mum was like. Not so much because of they remember her. They do remember her, but they'll see a video and they'll go,
that's it.
I remember yaya because I remember being there, but they might not remember they were there, but they'll remember the video.
Yeah, gotcha.
And it's such a we talk about technology being back then was great, not having all that. But it's so good having it now, because I kind of wish I had footage of my old man and more of my mum when she was younger, just so you could see what was going on. You get a look of life, and you know you understand what they were doing. You know, so so we're saying that with evolving with the band and Natasha putting all that stuff up and just regular kind of stuff. It's people just laugh. They go, oh my God, and it is that whole thing of those people going, I used to see you guys back in the 90s. Oh my God, I so many posts on Facebook when people post something up, someone that won't know us, like you'll see the comments say, oh my God, are they still going? You know, oh my God, are they still going? And it's great. To be honest, when we were doing our 25th anniversary last year, we were thinking about doing a massive big night like we did for our 20th anniversary. We had 700 people there. And back then, that was before the big events on Facebook started to happen. So I thought we could have actually gone more. And I've kind of planned it all, and then literally at that time, Ava got a role in dirt music. Right. So where I planned to do it, we were going to be away, so I thought it was too hard. Right. But then I wanted to do about 6 or 7 dates around and pick like a Wendy Leagues, pick like a venues that we played at in the big auditoriums. Yeah. And I was going to call it, what did I say? My wife thought it was stupid, but I went, are they still going tour? You know, like Jellybean Jam, are they still going tour? You know, like so like that, because it's what people say. And I think it's hilarious. Like they go, are they still going? I used to see them at, oh my God. And realistically, we are. It's crazy that after 26 years, you know, someone said it the other night at that Sands, mate, I used to see you guys at the Charlie Bar back in the 90s. Are you the only one left? I'm going, yeah, I'm 50. They go, really? Are you? You're not the same bloke. I go, yeah. I mean, whatever. But it's nice.
You're like Anthony Wiggle.
If I could be as skinny as him, but you know. And funny story about the Wiggles. Can I tell you one story?
Yeah.
So it was when we first started with Jellybean Jam. So we used to rehearse at the castle, Noisegate. You remember Noisegate Castle? So we used to rehearse there when we first started. And
that building ended up burning down. There's a castle there now.
Oh, okay. I've forgotten where it was. We were there near there the other day at some kids jumping castle thing.
Oh yeah, you went to Flip Out or something.
Yeah, Flip Out. Yeah. And I couldn't remember where it was.
Victoria Avenue.
Yeah,
right on the corner there.
It was there. Okay, cool.
There's a Hyundai dealer there.
That's right. Yeah. So we were in there, and Greg from the Wiggles, Greg
Greg
Page, lovely bloke. We've done some events with him, but funny, Greg was managing the Cockroaches at the time, so we were rehearsing downstairs, and he'd sit upstairs in the office, and I'd go up and pay. And I was, again, the kid who always asked questions. I'd always want to know. And he was doing the Cockroaches at the time, and he probably won't like me saying it's not of it. But so I go and have a chat with Greg, and he'd always chat about stuff and what are you doing and this and that, and then they hadn't. I don't think they'd really. They might have just started the Wiggles in '93. I think they started the year before. I can't remember. So then when we had that big snail mail email, like the snail mail...
The mail outs.
Mailings, right?
Yeah.
So Greg Page? Greg Page?
Yeah.
Greg
Page, yeah.
I don't know why we're going blank. Greg Page was on that. Jeffrey Fatt was on that. Right? Wake up, Jeff.
Right.
So then they were on the mailing list, right? So then we used to play the El Rancho, and Greg came down a couple of times. And I remember at one stage he was sitting there, and we had the coloured suits, right? And he was like 2 or 3 seats behind me, and he was just sort of watching the whole band. And again, if he ever hears this, he'll probably go, "Yeah, right, Andy." But all of a sudden, they were wearing colours. Not saying that it came from us. Saying, because it might not have. I can't remember. Right. I knew him, but not well enough. We would see him but it was very much that. And it's funny that we always used to get called the Wiggles.
Is that right?
Yeah, gigs. What are you, the Wiggles, mate? So it was.
We were here first, mate.
Yeah, but it was great. So having learned all that, having chats with him and stuff like that, we talk about that side of it. And what about the Wiggles? I mean, how good did they do in the 90s?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So we did a function with Greg about 2 or 3 years ago, and we do it every year for fit kids. And we were just chatting, and I bump into him every now and then in the street, and I always say good day, and I go, man. He goes, man, how good are you guys? Like 26 years. I go, oh, what about you guys? I mean, he's obviously not in the band anymore, in the act anymore, but I go, mate, but you guys go, no, mate, 26 years, like to do this for 26 years.
Yeah.
And you kind of then have to, again, you say, when I say to my mate, I'm pretty lucky, he goes, no, mate, you worked hard, but I feel lucky that I've been able to do it for 26 years is the point,
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Yeah. Andy Caryofyllis. Bro, thanks so much for all
this. Again, I'm so glad we got to do this.
Yeah, man, it's good.
It's been 12 months in the making, but I really admire what you're doing. The Gig Life podcast, it's awesome, man.
Thank you, bro.
Thanks for chasing me up again.
Sweet.
I'm a slack ass.
Too easy.
So good to talk. It's so easy to talk. It's so weird that it's so easy to talk about it, because as you get older, you go to a party sometimes and you're hanging out with people, and sometimes you're at the point where you don't want to talk about what you do. Yeah. And then people will say, you're in a band. And if they've never heard of the band before, they might go, what do you do? What sort of stuff do you do? And you kind of go, and you don't want to sound pompous and go, man, I've been going for 26 years. You've never heard of the band, But you kind of then go, sometimes you don't feel like you want to talk about it, because you actually can go, what do you do? And they go, I do this, I do that. But today, I don't know, man, it just felt like it just was rolling out.
It's good, man. It's good. It's like a therapy, eh? Some people say. Yeah. But you've certainly got something to celebrate. I mean, 26 years, it's impressive, man.
Yeah. Thank you.
If you'd only been doing Jellybean Jam for 10 years, I wouldn't fucking waste my time with you, mate. I'm just kidding.
Man. Well done. Thanks, dude.
Yeah, awesome, Andy. All right, later, brother. Bye, man.
See you, man.